This is a match of middle-class magic. We're playing Dredge. We won the die roll. Okay, what do we got here? We have Lingering Souls, got lands, 2 copies of Ancestors Chosen. So this is our reanimation target. We would like to hit this off of Dread Return. We really don't want 2 in our opening hand, so this is a free mulligan. This is better. We ideally like the 3rd land here, but having double Crawling Sensation is pretty fantastic. I'll keep this in Scry. So Haunted Dead is very good. I feel like we will be racing to hit our 3rd land drop though. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on bottom. We've got 4 copies of Haunted Dead, and it's pretty inevitable that we're going to hit one anyway. Crawling Sensation gives us insect tokens whenever a land enters our graveyard from anywhere for the first time this turn. I don't think we need to cycle Street Wraith. I'd like to save that for when I absolutely have to. So if we don't hit a land next turn, I will definitely cycle Street Wraith. But I would rather use it once we have a card with Dredge. Oh wow, Storm Chaser Mage, okay. So it looks like some kind of Teamer Prowess deck. That's exciting. Okay, good. We hit our land here. So I'm going to go ahead and rush out a Crawling Sensation. We need to get tokens into play and cards into the graveyard as quickly as possible. And once we hit a card like Dark Blast, or maybe even another Dagmor Salvage, we can dredge it with Street Wraith. We can also dredge it at our draw step to fill up the graveyard as quickly as possible. And at that point, we can flash back a Dread Return and gain a ton of life with Ancestors Chosen. Alternatively, we could, instead of gaining the life, if it's not essential, we could just reanimate a Plated Crusher, which is extremely difficult to deal with. It does bother me that my opponent kept up all this mana. Okay, so we hit Sylvan Library and Sandstep Citadel. We're going to yield to the Crawling Sensation, get a free token. So you might have a counterspell, something like Remand. Nice. Tap target permanent, draw a card. Ah, that's pretty good. So we don't have anything we can cast at instant speed. There's no point in tapping for mana here that I can tell. I'll cycle Street Wraith just to make sure that's true. Okay, so we hit a Ghost Quarter. That's perfect. It's exactly what we need. So we're going to Ghost Quarter the Dagmor Salvage, search out a Swamp. This is all during the upkeep, by the way. Okay, so we drew Riftstone Portal, which we would really prefer to be in the graveyard so we can hardcast Lingering Souls. I'm going to go ahead and play my land for the turn. I'm going to Ghost Quarter the Dagmor Salvage. Going to fetch for a Swamp. And now we can run out another copy of Crawling Sensation. And next turn we can dredge our Dagmor Salvage. Hopefully we'll hit a Riftstone Portal fairly quickly, so that our lands can tap for white mana in addition to green mana. A young Pyromancer. Well, that's to be expected. We need to hit Dark Blast very quickly. Dark Blast is going to do wonders against young Pyromancer. Yeah. Seems like a pretty good deck. We're definitely going to be racing to try and reanimate an Ancestor's Chosen as quickly as possible. Lingering Souls is going to do pretty good work here as well. Okay, we hit a Dark Blast, we hit Ancestor's Chosen. At this point, I'm absolutely going to dredge the Dark Blast. Okay, what did we hit? We got a Haunted Dead. And we do not have Riftstone Portal in the graveyard just yet. We do have a Haunted Dead in the graveyard, so we could discard Riftstone Portal. And then we only have 1 mana. So, at this point, I could play the Riftstone Portal and just Dread Return an Ancestor Chosen right now, and we would gain 10 life. With the ability to also flashback it in the exact same turn, we could even cast the second copy of Ancestors Chosen. That seems decent. It's definitely a tough call. I think what I want to do, I think what is most immediate, is to Dark Blast the Young Pyromancer. As inefficient as this seems, I don't see a better play at the moment. It's possible that what we should have done is dredge the Dakmor Salvage so that we have a second source of black mana. I really want to keep the Riftstone Portal in hand, even though I would like the mana, because that's a card we want in the graveyard. So I guess we could draw Ghost Quarter alternatively, and Ghost Quarter our own Riftstone Portal. But as it is, I don't mind discarding Lingering Souls either with Dread Return. I would just much rather be able to cast Lingering Soul twice. I think I'll just pass the turn. Okay, Bloodbraid Elf. That's pretty good. I like this deck a lot. Remand, that's exactly what we want to see. So my opponent whiffed on the Cascade. That's always awkward. I guess he's going to remand the Bloodbraid Elf. That's funny. That's actually pretty good. He is casting it to get the Prowess trigger and to draw a card. That is a cute interaction. It's for that reason I expect Remand might be the only counterspell in my opponent's deck. That's definitely cute. So I am going to block the Elemental token. My opponent is trying to keep me off Dread Return, it seems. Okay, so we got an Insect token. We have still Dakmor Salvage and Dark Blast. I can't kill the Stormchaser Mage with Dark Blast, so I don't see a reason to dredge it as opposed to dredging the Dakmor Salvage. We also could just draw at this point. We have everything we need. I think I'm okay just drawing. I don't know. I honestly am not sure at this point. I feel like I'd just rather get my mana going. Okay, so now we have the ability to play Haunted Dead. And what I failed to recognize is, so if we should play Haunted Dead this turn from the graveyard and discard Dread Return, that way we can flash back the Dread Return immediately. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to discard the Riftstone Portal if we want it in the grave. And that way we can follow up with a Lingering Souls next turn. Okay, so I'm going to Dread Return, targeting Ancestors Chosen. We're going to gain a lot of life here. I'm going to sacrifice Haunted Dead, because that's value. 2 Insect tokens. And we're at 26. So that feels pretty good. My opponent is going to be hard-pressed to kill us next turn. I don't think it's possible, actually. Although he does have a full grip of 7, so prowess creatures do a lot of work. It's kind of like Storm. This is a pretty exciting match. I've never seen this prowess deck before. I've talked with my opponent Grizzly Giblets. That's Richard. I've talked to him about it, theoretically, but I've never seen it in action. So he has fire, the other half ice. That's pretty good. We don't have a response to that. So he's getting rid of our blocker. Wow. Another fire. Yeah, that's pretty good. We're just filling up our graveyards so quickly. So we could dredge another Dagmor Salvage and hit land number 5. There's very little benefit to doing that I see, because we do not have Unburial Rights, so we don't really need the 5th mana. We hit another Dread Return, and it was right to dredge 3 just by merit of the fact that it's the very last card in the graveyard. So what we could do here is we could cast Lingering Souls, or we could discard Lingering Souls and Dark Blast to Haunted Dead, flashback Lingering Souls, and then Dread Return a second time. That seems pretty sweet. I do think that's the play. So here comes Haunted Dead. I'm going to discard both Dark Blast and Lingering Souls. Okay. Then we will flashback the Lingering Souls, and we can Dread Return again, this time sacrificing the Haunted Dead and the Insects, keeping all of our Spirit tokens in play, which is excellent as blockers. And now we get to attack for 4 for strike. Pretty good sequence of turns. I don't see a way my opponent can really win unless he's able to Wrath the board, which would be really interesting. I guess he could have Pyroclasm. If he Bloodbraid Elves into a Pyroclasm or something like that. Okay, he hit Ice. 2 damage divided, so we can kill off 2 spirits. That's pretty good. We still are getting... We're netting like 3 tokens per turn. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure my opponent attacks. You know, I actually don't really feel a need to block at all. We're at 44 life, so I'd rather keep my creatures in play. Alright, we get 2 more insects, and we will... So, here's the thing. We could dredge the Dark Blast, and then hold it up the following turn for Bloodbraid Elf. I think that's fine. I don't see what we could possibly need to draw at this point. We hit another Lingering Souls. We have 2 Lingering Souls in the graveyard, so that's pretty sweet. This match seems ridiculous. I imagine my opponent's sideboard probably has a lot to do with it. And I'm afraid of overextending here, so I'm going to leave the Lingering Souls in the graveyard and just hold up Dark Blast. If my opponent does have some kind of Wrath effect, and I highly doubt it, but it's a possibility we need to play around. We do have the Plated Crusher in the graveyard. But I believe we have exhausted all copies of Dread Return, and they've all been flashbacked rather than hardcast, so we can't reanimate anything. I'd have to cast it fair and square. So I could Dark Blast the Young Pyromancer, or I could kill a Bloodbraid Elf. I think I just want to do that. So there are only 16 cards in the graveyard. I am going to just draw. We drew a Dark Blast. I'm going to turn off the auto heals because I don't want to deck. Just attack with everything. My opponent is unaware that we have a Dark Blast. Okay, that's a reasonable block. We shouldn't need anything more than this to win. Okay, we drew a Lingering Souls. And I don't see a way that my opponent wins. Okay. Very interesting match. I love that deck. So we do have an Unburial Rites that we could bring in. This seems like a matchup we can fairly easily win as long as we are able to cast an Ancestor's Chosen. It's very likely my opponent brings in some kind of sideboard hate against graveyard shenanigans. So we may want Kitchen Finks. What could my opponent have in green? He might just bring in something like Relic of Progenitus. Havoc Demon is an interesting reanimation target, because if it dies, then he loses all of his creatures. I don't have a way to kill it myself, which was, I guess, a lack of foresight on my part. A flyer seemed really good in this matchup, and being on the draw, I might just want the added explosiveness of having Narcomoeba. Vampire Nighthawk seems really good in this matchup. I don't really mind Kitchen Finks. This is a matchup where Street Wraith might hurt us quite a bit. Plated Crusher seems excellent. Sylvan Library is very strong in conjunction with our Dredge cards. That's about all we need it for. This might be too slow for a Nyx Weaver. I think I'll cut the Nyx Weaver. I don't think I've ever sideboarded with Dredge before, so I'm very uncertain about what to do, and I've never seen my opponent's deck before, at least in practice. It seems like a hard matchup, and my opponent just kind of has to have the answers. Oh, that's terrible. 2 Narcomoebas. We have a turn 1 Crop Sigil, which is not the worst, but this hand has 5 unplayables. Okay, sure. Not a very good start. I'll leave this on top. Okay, I want to lead with the Swamp because my opponent is very likely to cast a Young Pyromancer next turn. Hopefully we hit a Crawling Sensation quickly. Yeah, that's what I expected. We're just going to Dark Blast it immediately. We will dredge. Seems great. Okay. We has Narcomoeba. Sweet. If we had to, we could actually... Okay, that's fine. I was about to say, we could Dark Blast our own Narcomoeba. Okay, so I'm going to... I'm just going to go ahead and Dark Blast this 4 blocks. So if my opponent wants to kill Narcomoeba, that's fine, I don't care. Okay. Shardless Agent, that's pretty cool. I wonder if that's a sideboard or mainboard card. It's probably mainboard. I just didn't see any last game. It's a pretty sweet deck, I must say. You get to do all the fun things. All the value creatures. Bloodbraid, Shardless, Young Pyromancer. With Prowess. Free spells and Prowess is a pretty good combination. What did he reveal? Manamorphose, okay. Excellent. My goodness. Just gonna Dark Blast the Young Pyromancer. And we're just turbo dredging here because we want to hit Haunted Dead as soon as possible. There's a Lingering Souls, that's just as good. I don't think I want to cast it though until... yeah, I don't want to cast the Lingering Souls until we have Dread Return available. So I'm going to... What I really want is to be able to get that Dagmor Salvage back so that we can cast Vampire Nighthawk. I guess since we can't do much anything else in the meantime, we'll go ahead and flashback the Lingering Souls. It's not ideal. Not what I wanted. But it's important to keep pressure on the opponent, especially with the City of Brass in play. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so what I meant to do here was Dark Blast during my upkeep. But as it is, I'm going to dredge the Dagmor Salvage. Okay, we can still hold up the Dark Blast. Next turn we can cast Vampire Nighthawk. Or if my opponent taps out, we can just kill the Swift Spear. I think Nighthawk is just much better though. This is a sweet deck, I must say. Taking a lot of damage here. So we hit the Ancestors Chosen. We do not have a way to reanimate, and looks like we're dead. It really does. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 damage on board already. We have access to 1 copy of Dark Blast or a Nighthawk, but it's very likely that my opponent has a Lightning Bolt. I feel like I have to try it at this point. Feels like we're dead, though. It's a lot of prowess triggers. This deck is so cool, I really want to build it right now. Teamer Cascade Prowess. Needs a better name than that, of course. I'm sure Richard has already thought of one. Oh my goodness. Bloodbraid Elf. That's pretty good. Yeah, we're dead. Bloodbraid Elf into Storm Chaser Mage will do it. Okay. Being on the play seems important. Kitchen Finks actually does seem excellent in this matchup. So I'm going to bring all 4 in. Seems like a mistake that we didn't the first time. My sideboard is definitely wrong here. I just want to mention that. Shriek Moss seems pretty good. Havoc Demon less so. Palaka Worm, I gotta say, seems really sweet. Since my opponent doesn't have access to Exile, I think I'd rather have a Palaka Worm than one of the Ancestors Chosen. Having a 7/7 seems pretty good. So we gotta take out a few cards. Being on the play, Narcomoeba seems kind of like a dead card. Vampire Nighthawk is very boltable, so I'd rather have the Kitchen Finks. Even though Nighthawk could theoretically block the flyers, it's just, in practice, never going to. What else? Sylvan Library is amazing. It's just an amazing card in this deck. I really want to see it in an opening hand. I'm not sure. We could have too many reanimation targets. Everything in this deck looks good. We might not need all 4 Kitchen Finks. And it seems like the most easily cut card. So I think this is good. We will play first. This seems wonderful. We can naturally cast a Lingering Souls. We could Ghost Quarter our Dakmor Salvage so that we can start dredging really quickly. I like all of it. Hopefully my opponent doesn't have a turn 1 Swift Spear. There it is. Of course. Okay. Now we have Dakmor Salvage. It might be a little too soon to just start wasting our lands. I wonder if we can Ghost Quarter my opponent out of the game. It's definitely not the line I'm looking for. But it's possible. We have nothing to do this turn. I may as well play the Salvage. This was a very slow start. So we could get blown out by an Electrolyze. Oh my god. There's the Relic. That could be game. Could be. Okay. Now I don't know if I want to play the Lingering Souls until I hit 5 mana. That's a very tough call. I could also, at 5 mana, hard cast Street Wraith as a blocker. 3/4 is a pretty good body to block with. So I think I really just need to run out the Lingering Souls. It's so bad that so I guess what I could do is, if my opponent tries to relic us right now, we could just, yeah, of course he does. We can just cycle the Street Wraith and exile that instead. Hitting Crawling Sensation was pretty good. Yeah, my opponent just really wants to aggressively exile my Lingering Souls. Seems like a fair play. I'm taking so much damage here, I am just going to have to chump block all of these Swift Spears. It's very sad. So, proof that Dredge is very easily hated. In Modern, it's much less so. Dredge kind of just wins no matter what in Modern. Go figure. So at least we'll get insect tokens as blockers from these Crawling Sensation. Even though my opponent has the ability to aggressively exile cards from my graveyard, at least I'll have blockers for the Swift Spear. Unless he kills me this turn. It's possible. Bloodbraid into Shardless into Stormchaser Mage or something crazy. So right now I could actually Ghost Quarter my Takmor Salvage, and Crawling Sensation would trigger, giving us an insect token. And I'm just going to let this happen, because I need the mana. Eventually I need to be able to just cast Pelakka Worm. I don't think I will make it that far. I might be dead this turn. This deck is so cool. I'm just dead. That's awesome. Good match. Okay, so that was Dredge. You got to at least see one sweet match to see what it's like. Cool.